Cease absolutely everything you are doing right now in this exact microscopic fraction of a second. Do not scroll past this footage. Do not check your notifications. Do not swipe away to another app. Put your phone on airplane mode. Disconnect your router from every single other device in your house. Close your heavy blinds and turn the volume on your speakers all the way up until the shear bass is literally shaking the concrete foundation of your floorboards. Because the European tennis establishment just tried to set an absolute foolproof trap for our girl, and instead they just watched their master plan violently burn to the ground in front of their very eyes. If you consider yourself a true, loyal, and dedicated member of the Eala army, you absolutely cannot afford to skip a single solitary second of this breakdown. Because what just happened at the Linz Open in Austria was not just a tennis match. It was a hostile takeover. It was a violent, undeniable, and mathematically flawless reality check. The headline flashing across the globe right now reads, Alexandra Eala versus Julia Grabher. Nobody predicted this victory. Let that sink in for a second. Nobody predicted this. That is exactly what the mainstream American and European sports media, the terrified billionaire executives in the corporate boardrooms, and the established panicked veterans hiding in the dark shadows of the WTA locker room want you to believe. They want to spin this narrative that Eala pulling off this magnificent brutal victory against an Austrian veteran was some kind of freak accident, some kind of statistical anomaly. They are lying to your face. They are completely, utterly, and shamelessly lying to you, and today on this channel we are going to expose the absolute unvarnished terrifying truth behind this specific match. We are going to rip the mask off the tennis establishment because we need to talk about the setup. We need to talk about the absolute blatant disrespect that Alexandra Eala had to face stepping into this specific tournament. This is the 35th anniversary of the Linz Open. It is a massive, historic, highly celebrated event in Austria. And what did the organizers do this year? They made a massive, unprecedented, highly calculated change. They completely ripped up the traditional hardcourts and they brought in 100 tons of heavy, grueling, punishing European clay. They built a temporary clay court coliseum right in the very middle of the city. Why? The media will feed you a sanitized PR statement and tell you it's for tradition. But let's look at the cold, hard reality. The establishment thought that by shifting the tournament to heavy clay, they could finally permanently slow down the explosive, terrifying momentum of the 20-year-old Filipina prodigy. They looked at the tournament draw and they smiled. Because waiting for Alexandra Eala in the very first round was Julia Grabher. Julia Grabher, a seasoned 29-year-old European veteran, a former top 55 player in the world, a certified clay court specialist who practically grew up sliding on this exact type of red dirt. But more importantly, Grabher is Austrian. This was her home country. This was her home crowd. The establishment set the stage perfectly for an execution. A packed center court with 3,000 screaming, passionate Austrian fans. A heavy, slow clay court designed specifically to neutralize Eala's aggressive, hard-hitting baseline power. A seasoned hometown hero desperate to defend her territory and protect the pride of the European old guard. The commentators, the betting markets, the sports analysts, they all wrote Eala off before the coin toss even happened. They all said the environment would be too toxic. The clay would be too slow. And the veteran experience of Julia Grabher would be far too overwhelming. Nobody predicted this victory, they said. They genuinely, foolishly thought they were walking Alexandra Eala into a trap. But what they completely, foolishly, and arrogantly forgot to calculate is exactly where Alexandra Eala was forged. When the umpire called time and the stadium lights beamed down on that red Austrian clay, Alexandra Eala did not shrink under the immense pressure. She did not panic. She did not look at her coaching box for an easy way out. She looked across the net at the hometown hero. She listened to the deafening roar of the 3,000 Austrian fans and she smiled with the cold, dead-eyed, unblinking focus of an absolute apex predator. What Julia Grabher and the entire Austrian crowd witnessed today was not a tennis match. It was a psychological assassination. The European establishment thought the clay would expose Eala's movement. Instead, Eala moved with the terrifying, flawless, aggressive grace of a player who has spent thousands of hours bleeding and sweating on the exact same surface. Every single time Julia Grabher tried to hit her heavy signature kick serve to push the 20-year-old off the baseline, Eala stepped aggressively forward. She took the ball early. She completely neutralized the veteran's spin, flattening it out and driving it deep into the corners with a level of suffocating venomous top spin that practically ripped the racket out of the veteran's blistering hands. The Austrian crowd tried to get loud. They tried to cheer for their hero. They tried to intimidate the young Filipina. But Eala systematically, mathematically, and clinically erased their voices from the building. Every time Grabher managed to generate a sliver of momentum, every time she earned a breakpoint opportunity and the crowd started to rise to their feet, Eala slammed the heavy titanium door permanently shut. She found her first serve. She painted the lines. She hit defensive passing shots on the dead run that absolutely defied the fundamental laws of physics. By the middle of the match, the deafening roar of the 3,000 Austrian fans had been reduced to an absolute terrified pin-drop silence. You could literally hear the heavy, exhausted breathing of the hometown hero echoing through the arena. Eala completely, fundamentally broke Grabher's will to fight right in front of her own people. The media says nobody predicted this. How absolutely, incredibly, sickeningly disrespectful to our warrior. Do they honestly, genuinely think that you can trap a premium graduate of the Rafael Nadal Academy on a clay court and expect her to fail? The academy in Mallorca is not a luxury country club. It is a military boot camp for tennis terminators built on the most brutal, unforgiving red clay on planet Earth. Rafael Nadal, the undisputed king of clay, the greatest gladiator the sport has ever seen, literally programmed his entire tactical and psychological philosophy into Alexandra Eala's brain on this exact surface. You thought you were bringing her into hostile territory. She was born in the fire of the clay. When Eala slides into a heavy forehand, she is actively channeling the ghosts of 14 Roland Garros championships. When she locks in on a return of serve, she is using the exact blueprint designed to destroy European baseline grinders. The establishment tried to throw her into the deep end of the clay court swing, and they just found out the hard way that she is a terrifying, unstoppable, multi-surface monster. I want you to imagine the absolute paralyzing panic in the camps of the top seeds right now. The fourth seed, Jelena Ostapenko, is sitting in her hotel room in Linz right at this very second. She had a bye in the first round. She was probably sitting on her bed watching this match on television, fully expecting to play the Austrian veteran next. Instead, she just watched Alexandra Eala turn the hometown hero into a statistical casualty on her absolute best surface. Ostapenko knows, deep in the darkest, most terrified depths of her soul, that the Rafael Nadal Academy prodigy is coming for her next. How do you possibly scheme against a player who just walked into a hostile, if sold-out European arena, completely ignored the heavy clay court conditions, and violently dismantled the local favorite? How do you mentally prepare to play a 20-year-old Filipina who looks at a massive, intimidating European crowd not as a pressure cooker, but as an absolute, undeniable birthright to conquer? You don't. You can't. The locker room is in a state of unprecedented level 5 biological hazard panic. The encrypted WhatsApp group chats are exploding with terrified messages. The established veterans genuinely believed that the transition from the American hardcourts to the European clay court swing would finally permanently slow down the Eala problem. They thought they finally had a geographic and surface advantage. But this victory, this absolute masterclass of athletic dominance, just violently destroyed their absolute last remaining shred of hope. And let us talk about the absolute most terrifying weapon Alexandra Eala possesses. A weapon of mass destruction that the Austrian tournament organizers completely and utterly failed to calculate in their algorithms. The Eala army. When Alexandra Eala steps out of the tunnel, she does not walk out there as a solitary tennis player. She walks out there with a deafening, unwavering, incredibly passionate, fanatic support of over 115 million Filipinos standing right behind her baseline. The commentators were stunned on live television. They couldn't believe how loud the Filipino diaspora in Europe was in that stadium. The Austrian fans paid for their tickets, but the Eala army completely, unapologetically, took over the emotional real estate of the arena. This is the exact moment the historical torches violently, unapologetically, and permanently ripped from the soft hands of the old guard. The era of the European media dictating who gets to win on the clay courts, dictating who the fans are allowed to love, is completely, permanently dead. The crown is being taken by absolute, undeniable brute force. Alexandra Eala is no longer the future of women's tennis. She is the terrifying, unstoppable, all-consuming present. I need you to completely, absolutely, and aggressively flood the comment section of this video right now. I need the Eala army to mobilize like never before in the history of the internet. I need you to make your voices heard so loudly, so aggressively, and with such overwhelming, undeniable, terrifying force that the terrified corporate executives in their boardrooms and Jelena Ostapenko hiding in her hotel room cannot possibly ignore the absolute truth of what is coming for them next. I want you to share this video on every single platform you have. Send it to everyone. What is your immediate, unfiltered, aggressive reaction to Eala completely silencing the Austrian crowd and dismantling the hometown hero on the heavy European clay? Do you agree that the tennis establishment was incredibly foolish to think they could trap a Nadal Academy graduate on a dirt court? How incredibly deafeningly, earth-shatteringly loud is the Eala army going to be when she steps onto the court to face the fourth seed, Jelena Ostapenko, in the next round to claim her destiny? Is there absolutely anyone left on this entire professional tour that can possibly stop our girl on the surface? Or is the rest of the European clay swing just an official, inevitable coronation of the new undisputed queen of the WTA? Drop your wildest celebrations, your deepest tactical analysis, your loudest cheers, and your absolute boldest, most terrifying predictions for her impending championship victory in the comments below. The revolution is not coming. The revolution is already here. The establishment is burning in ashes on their own clay courts. And today,